What's up there, guys? This is Rick. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching Fanfare for the Conscious, and in the video today I'm going to be talking about education and indoctrination. Let's dive in. So today we're going to be talking about education and indoctrination, and this is all part of my video series which is designed to give you an idea of the landscape of how a lot of my future theories and my future videos about various things is going to sort of play together, so to speak. So I think it's important to start off with covering a lot of these subjects so that you've got an idea of where I get a lot of my conclusions from, because it is based on a sort of a holistic understanding of many different subjects and many different ways that we've been manipulated and indoctrinated. And the education system is one of the primary ones. And if you want to understand exactly how the education system has been a force that has programmed and indoctrinated people over hundreds of years, you need to go back to the roots, and you need to go all the way back in history to sort of the beginning of public schooling. So we're going to have a look at the schooling system origins, and I'm going to talk about the methods of compartmentalisation and specialisation, which are used in education as a whole. We're going to talk about obedience to authority and blind acceptance. And then we're going to talk about the issues between certification over demonstrable knowledge. So we're going to start off at the top, going all the way back in history to the schooling system origins, and they actually came out of the Industrial Revolution, I believe, in Victorian Britain. Again, prepared to be corrected on the exact dates and times, but as far as I understand it, they did come out of the Industrial Revolution. And they were designed originally to acclimatise children to the working week. So the idea of having your day segmented and regimented. You know, spend a certain amount of time in this place, and when the bell rings you go and get to have a break, and then you come back and you do your work again, and then when the bell rings you go and get to have another break. And the sort of 9 to 5 kind of atmosphere is generated, you know, via the schooling, and gets used to kids, you know, working through the week and having a fixed time at the weekend in order to, you know, have their leisure time or whatever. So that was like the main idea when they first brought in the public school system, was to get children used to factory work. And that's where it's all originally come from, the original school structure, the way the day works. And it was built on absorption and repetition of facts, spoon feeding. Now, originally it was literally learned verbatim, parrot fashion, a lot of the knowledge that was incorporated. And I think over the years they've realised that that doesn't always program people correctly, because different people learn things in different ways. So they've, you know, then developed alternative methods to, you know, deal with the different sorts of psychologies that people have and the different ways people have of learning. But it is still all just down to this basic absorption and repetition of information. There's very little scope in the school day for discussion and questioning or creativity. Now, please don't think that I'm having a go at teachers. I'm not having a go at anyone who is a teacher. I have the utmost respect for you. It is a very, very difficult job that you do, and I've learnt this firsthand. I didn't work in a mainstream school, but I did work in a special needs school that used to deal with boys, young boys specifically, who were in touch with criminal elements. They were very, very, you call them naughty boys, I suppose, but they were very disadvantaged kids who grew up in extremely rough circumstances, you know, parents being drug dealers and gangsters, and they were in, you know, really, really struggled in mainstream education. But anyway, I worked in that environment, and even dealing with very small numbers, 6 per class, we found that extremely difficult because of the specialist needs of a lot of these children. And the thought of trying to teach 30 plus kids in a classroom, it's nigh on impossible. You don't have enough time to give to each individual child and each individual student in order to give them the most amount of attention that they could get. And this is then exacerbated even more at university, where you have, you know, sometimes 200 people in a lecture hall. you're not just teaching 30 kids, you're now trying to teach 200 people, all of whom have their own slightly different way of coming at things and have their own questions that they want to ask. And I mean, maybe they don't. Maybe they're so sucked into this idea of absorb and repeat that they don't even process this information and ask questions. But yeah, no disrespect to any teachers, you're operating within a very bad system. So utmost respect to all the efforts that a lot of you do go to in order to do the best that you can for the children. I'm not getting at any of you guys. It's the system which I am distrustful of and in opposition to. Anyway, so now we're going to go into this sort of compartmentalisation and specialisation. And the main focus here is that it decreases, when you increase your specialisation, you decrease the scope of your knowledge and increase the detail. So a good way of imagining it is, looking at a landscape with a pair of binoculars. The more you zoom in, the more detail you're going to have on what's in that specific area, but the less information you're going to have on what else is sort of going on outside of your perspective. Which is not necessarily a bad thing, but the school system itself really drives towards specialisation, and you're encouraged to specialise more and more and more as you get, deeper into it. Nobody's really encouraged to go as far as they find interesting in a subject and then back out and try something else. It's all this drive towards having a career, and only one career in a very specific subject, your career, be it teaching, be it being a mechanic or an engineer or a scientist or whatever. There's this real drive to get that specialisation and to only dedicate yourself to that field, which necessarily then decreases the scope of your knowledge. Diversification, however, on the opposite, does decrease the detail in any given subject, but it does increase your scope. And that's important because it gives you a broader idea of the landscape in which any given subject is set. This compartmentalisation idea as well also ties into subjects and methodologies being artificially separated, whereby the scientific method is only applied to science, the historical method is only applied to history, and the mathematical method is only ever applied to maths. Whereas those ideas and those ways of working can be blended and combined to allow you to have a greater understanding of the truth in any given subject. Anyway, so on to obedience to authority and blind acceptance. And again, this comes back to this absorption and repetition of facts. The schooling system teaches obedience to those perceived to be in a position of authority. It doesn't encourage the questioning of it. Take this information, absorb it, it's come from someone of authority, accept it. And it encourages this absorb and regurgitate mentality. I take the information out, I take the information in and I remember it, and then I spit it back out when it's required. And this absorb and regurgitate mentality doesn't really produce real, genuine knowledge. Think about all the exams that you've passed as a teenager. If you're as old as I am, or if you're already a teenager, think about the stuff that you're absorbing now, and then look at it in a few years and see how much of it you actually remember, because people are being taught to pass exams. They're not being taught how to understand in sort of a deeper level and a more holistic idea. And again, to say it keeps these subjects and methodologies artificially separated. So you only learn the historical method of investigation when you're doing history, and it's then it's left in history. It's never brought out into other subjects where it could be applied. If you don't know what I mean by the historical method is based a lot around analysing of sources of information. So you look at the source, you look at whether first they were an actual witness to the event, they were there when it happened, or whether they are reporting on it from something they've heard, and that's primary versus secondary sources. You've also got to look at the potential biases of the people who were those sources and why they might, paint a certain event to have happened in a certain way. And that's left in history, really. It doesn't ever get applied anywhere else, where you could definitely, apply it to things like journalism, particularly, and research, and scientific inquiry. And again, of course, you can also take the scientific method of having a hypothesis and a null hypothesis, and then testing that, and having a method by which you can decide whether you've proven your hypothesis or whether you've proven the null hypothesis, the anti-hypothesis. Anyway, the last thing I'm just going to cover in this video today is certification over demonstrable knowledge. Now, I only have certificates in a handful of subjects. I'm not going to list my CV for you, but I've only got formal education up until higher level. First year of university, I dropped out after the first year. Actually studied cybernetics and artificial intelligence. Anyway, that's certification knowledge. That's I've passed an exam in this. And that is a big counter to what I call demonstrable knowledge, which is something that you can actually demonstrate you have the knowledge of and apply it to a given situation. And someone can be, I always describe it as being bad on paper. Their knowledge in terms of their certification is not representative of their true knowledge, because I've learned so much more off my own back, going and doing reading and research, and just by being interested in. I've not got any certification in any of these subjects, but because of the fact that I actually have the demonstrable knowledge, I can talk on those subjects with a fair amount of authority. Anyway, just a few things for you to think about, really, and you can, when you sort of bring all these together, you can see how this educational system is designed to create people that are compartmentalised and specialised into a given subject, and are encouraged to not diversify their knowledge. On top of that, you've got this sort of acceptance and regurgitation of facts without actually taking any time to really critically analyse those facts and where they've come from and who might have any ulterior motives or biases behind the information they're presenting to you. And that's a really big concern, because that ties into the inability now for people to actually question things and think outside the traditional box of modern understanding. Anyway, that just leaves me to say thank you very much for watching. If you're still here, very much appreciated. If you like my content, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Select all to make sure that you're always notified of any of my new content. Thumbs up would be appreciated. Any comments you like down in the comment section below. You can find links to various things in the description. And I'm just going to quickly let you know, if you want to talk with me personally, you can join me at lawfulbank.com. Go and get yourself signed up there. Go and click in the search bar and look for Rick Paris. Send me a friend invite. I would love to have more people on there to discuss things exactly like this. Why do I advocate for lawfulbank.com? Well, if you are on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, brand YouTube, any of these corporate social media communication platforms, you are feeding the very beast that we wish to overturn. And the first thing we have to do is starve that beast of our energy to encourage it to fall. Love you very much, guys. Take care of yourselves. Don't forget to stay free, think free, and act free. And I will see you next time.